limits of my language mean the limits of my world, a fundamental axiom formulated by Ludwig Wittgenstein. Most of us perceive this phrase as a beautiful metaphor. However, in cognitive linguistics, it acquires a frightening literalness. How can we describe that which simply does not exist in our language? The darkest illustration of this principle was proposed by George Orwell in his novel 1984. The goal of his Newspeak was not merely the creation of a new medium of communication, but the systematic destruction of words. The party understood, if the very word freedom disappears from the language, then the concept of freedom will become incomprehensible to a person. They will be left without the linguistic foundation to even desire to be free. In Orwell's world, concepts such as honor, justice, or morality were replaced by a single flat word, doublethink. When the nuances of language are taken away from you, the nuances of your feelings are taken away as well. The irony is that we often voluntarily do to ourselves the same thing the party did in Orwellian Oceania. We simplify our internal vocabulary into black and white categories of good and bad, success and failure. We create our own mental newspeak, in which there are no words to describe an exit from a dead end, and therefore we cannot find that exit. In linguistics, there is a distinction between strong and weak future time reference, or FTR. Research suggests that if your internal language morphologically separates the future too sharply from the present, your brain perceives your future self as a complete stranger. You aren't just putting things off, you are linguistically delegating them to someone else. In strong FTR languages, the future requires an obligatory grammatical marker. It is separated from the now by an impenetrable wall. Ja сделаю это. The verb changes its form, severing the action from the present moment. English, I will do it. The auxiliary verb will acts as a barrier, signaling that the event does not yet exist. For the brain, the I in the present and the I in the future are two different individuals. Studies by Keith Chen show that speakers of such languages subconsciously distance themselves from their future, leading to higher rates of procrastination and less responsible attitudes towards savings or health. Conversely, weak FTR languages often speak of the future as if it were the present. The grammatical difference is nearly non-existent, understood only through context. German, morgen regnet es, literally, tomorrow it rains. The verb remains in the present tense. Mandarin Chinese, tomorrow I go shop. Chinese lacks morphological verb changes for tenses entirely. Because the present and the future are linguistically inseparable, the future self is perceived as the self right now. For speakers of these languages, the barrier between intention and action is significantly lower. A crisis distorts our self in the present. Here, we enter the territory of scholastic philosophy, distinguishing between the concepts of essentia and accidentia. Our fatal error lies in the process of semantic self-labeling. When you suffer a defeat and utter the words, "I am a failure," you commit an act of ontological violence against yourself. You are equating your eternal essence with a temporary, accidental circumstance. To break this circle, we can look to the experience of the Irish language. In Irish, you wouldn't say, "I am sad," as if it were your immutable trait. You would say, "Tabron orm," sadness is upon me. In this linguistic construction, sadness is not your essence, but something external that you are currently wearing, like a heavy coat. You are not the storm itself, you are the space in which the storm is temporarily raging. In the Spanish language, this distinction is enshrined in the system of the verbs to be, ser and estar. Ser is used for fundamental and permanent characteristics. Estar is for temporary states, locations, and moods. Look at the difference. If you have made a mistake and say, soy un fracaso, I am a failure, using the verb ser, you are signing your own death warrant, declaring it your permanent characteristic, your essentia. However, a native speaker who senses these nuances would more likely say, estoy frustrado, I am frustrated, or at a dead end, using the verb estar. And a mistake is always estar, a temporary location in experience that will inevitably change. Yet, in our everyday speech, we tend to employ static syntax, transforming dynamic processes into monolithic nouns. This process is known as nominalization. We take a living, fluid stream of anxiety and solidify it into anxiety. The moment the word escapes our lips, it turns into an immovable boulder, a weight that can no longer be shifted. The psychological method of affect labeling proves that when a person provides a precise name for their internal experience, the activity in the brain's fear center significantly diminishes. By naming the shadow, you begin to control it. If you are the one who gives names to things, then the power over the world is always at the tip of your tongue. You can rename your fear as curiosity, your exhaustion as the completion of a cycle, and your dead end as a vantage point. Darkness ceases to be terrifying when you have the precise word to describe its borders. If you feel that the world around you is becoming too cramped, dark, or unfathomable, look at your vocabulary. Perhaps it simply lacks the necessary categories. We cannot find the way out of the labyrinth not because it doesn't exist, but because our mental map lacks the very concept of a door. But true freedom begins where words end. Pronounce your new now. Take a breath and let the silence between the words become your space for maneuver. Your language is not a cage, it is a blueprint, and you are free to redraw it at any moment.